Hi everyone. Today video is on Angular 14 reactive forms. So what is reactive forms? Angular reactive form supports model driven technique to handle the form input values. Okay. So it is like model based for capturing or storing the data with Angular form binding. Okay. The reactive form state is immutable, means cannot be changed. If any form field changes, creates entire new form state. Okay. Reactive forms build around observable stream, which from which where form inputs and values are provided as a stream of input values, which can be accessed synchronously. Okay, so this is small description about the reactive form. Let's jump into create a sample application and go through all the techniques that can be used for implementing the react forms. Okay. So here is the Angular CLI command for generating the Angular application, that is ng space new space name of your project. So let's create the project. For this demo, I am not using routing. So click N for no. And I am going to use CSS files. Select them. Project created. Let's open Visual Studio Code Editor. So here is my Angular project, and inside of the package.json we can check the version of the Angular, that is 14. Okay. Now first let's install the bootstrap for form stylings. So open terminal and let's install the bootstrap package. npm install bootstrap. Bootstrap package installed successfully. We can confirm by going to package.json file, and you can see the reference of the bootstrap in the dependencies. Okay. Next, we have to add CSS and JS configurations into the angular.json file. Okay, for that angular.json file, go to angular.json file. Here, let me give the reference of bootstrap min.cs file. Okay. css/min.css file. Similarly, we have to give the JS file reference as well. Okay. Now let's create a sample component like job portal, because I am going to create a small form. It is like a job portal form where uh, employees can upload their resumes. Like that sample form I am going to create. So let's create a component, Angular component. So command is like ng generate component and name of the component. Name of the component will be job portal. So component successfully created. So if I go to job portal component.ts file, and here is the element tag, right? So copy that and go to Angular, app component.html file, and remove this entire HTML and add our component tag here. Okay. So before implementing reactive forms, first step we have to import the reactive form module into our app module.ts file. For that, go to app module.ts. Okay, and in the imports, let's add reactive forms module. Okay, so that reactive form module loads from the Angular forms. Okay, now let's create a sample reactive form in our job portal component. Okay, so the main things helps to create a reactive forms are like form control and form group. So form control, nothing but they are like they represent one input element in the HTML. Okay, one input element in the HTML is a form control. Okay, so group of form controls is called form group. Okay, so using those instances, we can easily create a reactive form. Okay, so first uh, let's create the form in the HTML. So container, okay. Inside of container, let's add a legend and heading. I will add like job portal. Add a row, okay. Inside of it. So what I will do here, I will create two sections like two columns. One column I am going to represent the form, and in another column I am going to show the preview of the form submission. Okay, in general, in real forms, what we will do, the form submitted, the data will be posted to the API call, right? So here we won't call any API. Okay, we just want to focus on reactive forms and their implementation. So what I will do on form submission, I am going to display the all the form content as a preview, okay, on the right hand side of the form. Okay, for that let's divide the two column sections. Okay, all MD 8. So this is one section for all MD 2. Okay, so this is for preview section. So in the form section, let's add the form. So now open the bootstrap and copy the form elements from the bootstrap website. So in the bootstrap, go to docs, and here you can go for form. So inside the form, go for form control. Okay. In the form controls, let's copy this first div for one input element. Okay. So copy that and paste it inside my form. Okay. Now let's change the ID values like txt. So my form simply contains two input fields, one for first name and one for last name. Okay. Txt name. Okay. And its type will be text. Okay. And label will be first name. Okay. Now just duplicate this. Okay. Change like txt last name. Okay. ID text last name. Okay. These are my two form fields. And let's add button as well for my form submission. Okay. Button like submit. Okay. And type will be submit. I will choose submit. Okay, this is my simple form and we have to make it the reactive form. So to make it the reactive form, in the component, we have to create a form using form groups and form controls. Okay, let me create a small form variable like job form equal to. So form group contains collection of controls, right? So initialize form group. Okay, So form group loads from the Angular / forms. Okay. So open the constructor, and inside of the constructor pass the form control. Okay. So I will name my form controls like I have two fields, right? First name and last name. So I will name like first name, that is of form control. Form control. Okay. So here you can see. So job form variable is type form group. Inside of form group, it will contain control. So these controls will be mapped to each element in the form. Okay. So here we can give default values for each form. So whatever the value we will give here, okay, that value will be rendered into this form. So if I give empty, empty will be rendered to this input fields. Okay. So I need two controls. First name, new form control. Okay. So that is my reactive form variable. Okay. Now I need to map this to this form. So to map this to reactive form, this to form, what we have to do means we have to use form group. Here you can see default name form group and form group name. Always for the top one, we should use the form group. Okay. We have another one like form group name. I will explain in later step when to use it. Okay. For top level form, we should use the form group. And to this, I will assign the my form variable, that is job form. Copy it and assign it. Okay. Now I need, so this form is mapped with this job form, and these input properties must be mapped with the controls inside of this job form. Okay. So for that we can simply use a directive called form control name. Okay. So to this form control name, assign the names of the controls. Okay. First name, similarly form control name. Okay. So we successfully map our form with our HTML. Okay. Now we have to uh, listen for the form submission. For form submission, we can listen for a event like ng submit. So to use or to listen for ng submit, make sure your button type always submit. If you use button type equal to some button, we have some types, right? Any of these types, it won't invoke that event. Only for submit type only that events get executed. Okay. So and we should register this submit to a some method. Okay. So let's create a some method like save. In real time, in this save method, we will have logic for posting the form data to the API call. Here we want to simply preview the whatever form submitted data, right? So let's create a variable like preview. Okay, by default empty. And here what I will do, this dot preview equal to JSON dot stringify. I want to stringify and display the form data. So to show the form data, I can use this dot JSON form dot value. So this is going to give all the values inside of it, like first name, last name, like that it will show. Okay. So I am going to stringify it. Okay. And register the save method to this event. And in the preview column, let's add one more div. And let's add some styling like position fixed. Okay. Form increases. I want to scroll only the left hand side form. Okay, for that here what I can do, here I can add style like overflow role. Okay, and here I can bind the preview variable. Okay, so now let's run and test our sample reactive form, sample and simple reactive form using the form groups and form control. Okay, and here you can see small form appeared, right? So if I data entered, it is a reactive form, right? Automatically data will be captured into the this job form variable. Okay, so entered some data, and if I click on submit, save method gets executed and data will be previewed on right hand side. So click submit. See the data, whatever I will add, that will be read automatically. So this is the reactive form, simple reactive form. Okay, and reactive forms provide a service called form builder service. Okay, so what this form builder service means, it will reduce the repetitive code. Okay, that means we no need to explicitly define the form group or form control. Okay, with that form builder, we can easily create this instance without explicitly specifying them. So let's change this simple form. Instead of using form group, let's use form builder. Okay. So for that, let's inject the form service, form builder service, private FB form builder. Okay. So this form builder also loads from the Angular forms. Now what I can do, enter. So this dot fb dot, it will provide a method like group. So if you call, it will create a new form group. Okay, and inside of it, same like this, we can assign the object. So I am going to copy this and assign it here. Let's remove this. Okay, and no need to give form controls also. We simply give a array. Okay, in that array, first value will be the default value for the form control. Okay, I will give like this. So save, and if I reload, see form is loading, and if I enter something, see still I am seeing the data. Okay, so if you want to have some default value, you can give here. Okay, like I am giving first name like Haman. Okay, see by default, when the page loads, default value get binded. So default values is the first parameter in this array. Okay, so that is about the form builder. Okay, so next we are going to implement form group. Form group or nested form group. Nested form group or child form group means inside of this form group we will have small another form group. Okay, so for my example, what I will do, I will create email, phone number, and preferred contact type into one form group. Okay, for that, first let's implement the HTML, or else let's first implement the form itself. So my form group name is contacts. Okay, nested form group. So to create a nested form group means need to create new form group instance. So it is very easy to create the form group using form builder, right? This dot form group. So this going. So this is called nested form group or a child form group. Okay. So it will contain controls like contact type. Okay. Initially, let's do empty and email and phone. Okay, these are my nested form group controls. So further, let's implement the HTML here. Let's create a div with margin bottom 3 pixels div, and inside of it, let me create a row. Okay, and here in the first row, I want to show the uh, drop down, small drop down like a preferred contact. So it contains options like email or phone number. Okay. So here what I will do, call MD4 offset MD4. Okay. So inside of this, let's create one more MB3 div, and inside of it, let's add a drop down. So bootstrap drop down. For that, go to bootstrap, and here under the form, go to select. Okay, and copy this and add here. Okay, here I will change it like select. Okay, and its initial value is -1, and I will have options like email, and phone. So these are my drop down selectable options. And to this, let's add a label. So DDL contact type, and label like preferred contact type. Okay, and next let's create one more row. Inside of this row, I will have two text fields, input fields like phone number and email. Call MD6. Okay. Let's duplicate it. So inside of the column D, first let's add a one input field. So what I will do, I will copy this entire code, div code, paste it here, and also paste it here. Okay. And these fields, for one is for email, and type also I will change like email, email, and phone number. Txt phone. And now we have to map the form control names and to this drop down value, and also phone and email input elements. Okay, but these form controls are under nested form group. So first we have to define form group name first. Okay, nested form group name. So where is our nested form group starts? So this, for this div tag, I can specify the nested form group tag. So if it is a root one, we have to give like form group. Okay, inside of the child one, we can give form group name. Okay, so attribute like form group name. To this name, we have to pass our nested form group name, that is contacts. Okay, and for this select element, we have to map with form control name. Okay, so what is the form control name? Contact type. Okay, and I want to By default, select the this one -1. For that, in this array, we can give -1 for default selection. Okay. And next, this is email. So copy the control name of email. And next one is phone. Okay. So let's copy them. Let's check in the page. See, now we have preferred contact, email, and phone number, and the text box. So let's enter some data. And some phone number, and now submit the form. See, now for the contacts, which is a nested form, data is coming like this. Okay. So that is how when we want to group into nested form groups, we have to do like this. If you have another nested form group, we can have below. Okay. Next, one more feature that provided by the reactive form, that is form array. Okay. Using form array, we can generate the dynamic form groups or controls. Okay. Now, our example, what I want to do, I want to add a text field here, like the button field button here, like add a skill. So if I click on it, it will create a new two text fields like programming language and the experience. Like that, if I click n number of times that add a skill button, n number of new form groups will be rendered here. So form will be dynamically generated. And I will also create a delete button for each form group that is dynamically created as well. Okay. So that dynamic form creation is possible using the form array. So to do that, what I will do, here I will create a form array name like skills. Okay. So skills, this must be a form array. To create form array, this dot fb dot array. So initially empty data, right? So I will pass empty array. Okay. So that is my form array. And now I need to, whenever some button will be there, so add a skill button. So on clicking that button, this new form or new form control should be generated, right? So for that, let's add a method like add skill form groups. Okay. Add a skill form group. Every time this method gets invoked, one form group will be pushed into the skills. Okay. So how we can do that in this method? So create a method like add skills and create one getter. So getter like, I will name the my getter method like skill forms. So this is a getter property, Angular getter property, this one. Skill forms, and here I will return like this dot job forms dot get. To get control over the skill forms, I am creating the getter. Okay. Get the control over the skill forms, I am creating one getter here. So to get that, simply pass the name of the control, and it is a form array type, right? So you can specify like as form array. Okay, like this, return. Okay, now using this form getter, I can access the form array. Okay, this dot skill dot push. It is a array, right? This skill form is a array. This skill form is a array, and I'm getting through this skill forms getter. Okay, so in this array, I want to push a small form group. Okay, so I can write like this dot fb dot group to create a new form group. And inside of it, I can create the form control. So I will name form controls like program language. Okay, initial value empty and the experience in that programming language. Okay, initial value I will define like 0. Okay, this is my add skill group button. Let's define the HTML. Go to HTML. Here, let's create a div. First row. Okay, define a row and call md4 offset md4. So here, let me define the uh, button for adding the skills. Okay, so I can create a button, and here button type should be button, not submit. Okay, it's a button. So it is button type add a skill. This button is add a skill. Just like okay, and to this button, uh, raise a click event and register with this add skill form group. Okay, so that is my button. Now after this row, create one more row. This row should be looped. Okay, whatever the new row, that in that new row I will have two input fields like programming language and experience, two input fields. So those two input fields will be reside in the row I am going to create. So I want to loop right every time button click a new form group must be rendered. For looping, I don't want to create one more additional div. So instead of creating one more additional div, I can give a virtual Angular div that is like ng container. Okay, ng container. Inside of it, I will add my row. So while rendering, this ng container won't be available, but the content, so this will be used for looping. That loop I will explain in next step. And I will split like call md5. Okay, duplicate it, and it is 2. Okay. Now here inside of this, I want a text box. Inside of this, I want a text box, and inside of this, I want a button. That button is like delete button. Once I click, this newly rendered form group must be deleted. Okay. So let's first focus on the input button. What I will do is this div, add it here, add it here. Okay. And let's name like txt program language and txt experience. Okay, and it is like experience, and this label will be programming language. And here control name is, what is my control name in the add skills program language? Assign it here. And another thing is experience, right? Assign it to another text field. Okay, but this is under form group. and this must be looped, right? So so to loop that one, what we have to do means let so ng star ng for okay, let skill form, this is my normal variable of, here I have created a getter, right, skill form, so it's going to get the skill form instance. So what I will do, I will loop the skill form instance of controls, okay, controls dot controls we have to use, and here we are, sorry, here we have to define index also, okay, we need index as well, let I equal to index, okay, and let's do small change here with for, this is not required but it is good to have a unique IDs for each element. So what I will do, I will use the index value, okay, like this, same thing as into ID, and here also, and for dynamic we have to wrap the attributes inside of the square, okay, this is just to create the unique IDs. Okay, that is for generating the unique IDs. Okay, now each loop means one form group, one new form group. Means we have to map the form group also, right? So form group name. Here we have to specify the sub form group name. Previously, how we specified contacts. Same way for this loop also we have to specify the form group name. But here form group name will be the index itself because it is dynamically generating forms, right? So wrap now, so it is a dynamic value, so we have to wrap it around the square brackets. Okay, first let's add attribute form group name and wrap it around square brackets, since it is a dynamic, ID is a dynamic, right? Like this. So I think we are good. Now whenever I will click a add a skill button, new form group will be pushed into this instance, this instance skill form. So since skill forms controls are looping, the newly pushed form will be rendered as HTML here. Okay, and this final div, let me add a button like delete. So dynamic forms, if you want to delete, we can delete. So button, it is also button and class btn and danger. And this method, click method, should remove the instance of the form group that was pushed, right? So for that, let's create a method. Create a method like remove skill form group, and it's going to input index. Okay, index as the input. So it is very simple. Skill forms this dot get this getter skill forms. Okay, skill forms. Okay, remove at, it will take index. Simply removes from the form array. Okay, I think we are done with our logical implementation. Let's test it. Okay, we haven't registered the remove form skill method. So add it and pass I value, index value. Okay, now if I check, okay, it is loading. Now here is the add a skill button. If I click, see, form group is coming. This button is little bit high, right? So here what I will do, margin bar. So let's click. Okay, it's somewhat better. If I click, n number of forms will be added. See, n number of dynamics forms will be adding. And if I click on delete, those forms will be deleting. See, it is very easy using form array. We can dynamically create n number of form groups and we can delete them as well. Okay, now let's submit some form data. Okay, so Angular 5. And if I click submit, see, but my programming language is not printing here. Angular and value 5 are not printing. Why? Okay, okay. That is because the main name of the form array not added here in the HTML, right? Skills. So we have to add that also. So to add that one, where we are starting our this MB, right? So here I can specify form array name. This is different. Okay. Here I am using form array skills, right? So paste, map that name as well. Now I am able to print my form group values also. Okay. Now if I rerun, add something and add Angular experience 5 and submit. See, now I am getting the Angular data. So that is the way we can create the dynamic forms using the form group. So till now what we have discussed about form groups, form control, form builder and form array for generating the dynamic form. Okay, I think we are so far so good. Next, we will discuss about set value method of the reactive form. For suppose if you want to populate this entire form by default when the page load, something like edit form where all the API data we have to bind, right? So to bind like that entire form, we can use set value. Okay. For that, let me create a dummy method here since we don't have any API, right, for edit. So I will add a dummy method like sample set value. Okay. In this method, this dot job form dot set value. Okay. Okay. Here we can set all the data. See, set value means we cannot partially update the form. Entire form must be updated. Okay. If not, it won't compile also. So let's update with some initial data. Simply JSON, like this we can pass everything. And we have skills, right? But skills is initially undefined, right? So I can pass empty array. Okay, now what I will do, I will create a dummy button under the main submit button. Okay, this is for demo purpose only. Okay, to show the set value method. So I will change like to type so it won't submit the form, and I will register a click event, and the method is set samples. Okay, let's test it. Now I have changed it to test set value method. Okay, so here is my button, right? If I click on it, see, automatically entire data gets updated here automatically. If I reload, form is initially empty, right? If I click, entire form is populated. That is because of setValue, reactive form setValue. Or suppose if you want to update only few things like one or two form fields like input field, we have another method that is like patchValue. So sample, let me create one more sample method like patchValue. Okay, this dot job form dot patchValue. So here we can specify what are the properties we want to update. Okay, we will update and in context email like. Okay, so this is my simple update. Only two fields in the form I want to update. Now let's create one more dummy button. Name it like patchValue. Here register with the method sample patch. Okay, now test it. Here I have one more button, right? If I click on it, see, only these two fields get populated. Okay, in reactive forms, we can use set and patch values for updating the form. For entire form, we have to use the set value, and for only few fields, we can use the patch value. Okay, and next, let's implement the validation. Okay, so reactive form supports built-in validation like required, minimum length, max length, email, phone number. Like there are some built-in validation. First, let's understand the built-in validation. Okay, so for our demo, I want this first name should be mandatory field. For that, what I can do, I can go to reactive forms and here itself, comma, first value is default value in the array for the control. Second value will be the array for specifying the validation. Okay, so here I can specify validation, required field validation, right? I can use validators. Okay, so this validators loads from the Angular form dot required. See here you can see a number of a if dot. You can see email, max length, min length. So these are the built-in validation functions. So I want to use required. Means this control is mandatory, should not be empty. Okay. So I applied required field validator here. So now I need to add the error message in the HTML. To add the error message in the HTML, I want to use this control. Okay, to access it easily on the HTML, we have to create a getter. Like skill forms, we have created one getter, right? Same way, we have to create a one getter for first name. Okay, so let's create a getter here. Get first name, return this dot form dot get and name of the control. What is the my control I want to display? First name. Okay, so I have created a first name getter. Now I can display the error message on the HTML using this getter. Okay, so go to the first name field. Under the first name field, let's add a div like alert dot alert danger. Okay, and I want to display this div only for the conditions like I have getter, right? First name getter. So copy first name question mark to avoid the null exception. I can check for touch. So this means touched means content inside of it should show only mouse must be entered into this input field. Okay, by default we don't want to show error message, right? It should be touched. Okay, that is the touched. All these are gets from the reactive form properties only. Okay, touch. Sorry, first not touched when it is invalid. First, this form field is valid or not. Next, and by default we won't show, right? Because by default it is empty, default value empty, and it is required. So in that case, it will execute this condition satisfied. But along with that, at least user must touch that field one time. Okay. If you give only this condition, by default error message will be displayed. Okay. So that's why we want to add one more condition like first name dot touched, means at least one time input mouse entered into that input field, or else first name dot dirty, means value is changed. In the two cases, I want to display this div. So it is our condition. Okay. And inside of it, I want to add one more div. Okay, we can add here. This is an array, right? You can add n number of error messages like validators dot min max, like that you can add. So it will contain array of error messages. So we have to check for particular error message, right? So let's add one more div. And first name ng if using first name what is my getter name use okay first name dot errors, so it is a array, and in that array I need to check for any required validator arrays. If it exists, then this div get executed. Then I want to show a message like first name is required. Okay, so what we are doing, first we are checking form field is valid or not, and it is at least touched or changed. If that is passed, and again we are checking for particular error message, because here we applied required, right? Required validator. So I am checking for messages that related to required. Okay, let's test it. So if I enter and if I remove, sorry, here it is capital F. Okay, now test again, enter cursor and remove. See, it is just touched, right? And we removed focus out, immediately fire. So validations are firing. Let's implement custom validators. Okay, now I will implement a custom validator like it should be either an email or phone number, and it should not be stay in select while submitting form. Okay, for that I will implement a custom form validation. Okay, for that what I will do, I will create a folder like shade. In that shade, I will create a file like custom error.directive.ts, and here I will add, we can add all our custom methods. Okay, so I will create export function and email or phone number must be required. And this method is a custom method, custom validator method, right? It should have a return type like validator function, validator function that loads from the angler.forms. And inside of it, this method should return a arrow function. Okay, so these are all the default structure. Arrow function of type validation errors or null, and means this arrow function type must be either the validations must return a error or null, means if it is returning some error, that type is validation error, and null means no error. And this arrow function also contain a input parameter like control of type abstract control. So this abstract control is nothing but our whatever the form control that we are going to use our custom validator. Okay, so we can read values inside of the controller using this variable. Okay, now what I will do, I'm going to return and I'm going to check control value. So my form control value I can access like this. This is my form control itself. Okay, if this is equal to -1, okay, in that case, okay, I am returning some error. Email, phone number, this is my object name. Any name you can give, because using this name only we can check in the exceptions. Okay, and I will simply pass value equal to control dot value. Okay, and null. Okay, so this is my custom validator function. So custom validator function should contain the return type like validator function, and inside of it, it should return a anonymous function, and that type should be validator errors or null, and that arrow function contains a abstract control as the input parameter. Now I can use this custom controller against my controllers, form controller. So I want to use here, okay, contact type. So email, let's copy the name, function name, require, okay, any name you can give, meaningful name, okay, and import the namespace. Now I have specified the uh, custom error. Now I want to display the error message. For that, job HTML, copy these div tags. I need these div tags, okay, and go to contact type, select, under the select, let me add my error message divs. And here it is not a first name, and it is a contact type, right? So for that contact type, let's create the getter. Okay, so get contact type, okay, copy this, and contact type is a control of the nested form control, right? For that, what I can do, copy the name of nested form group, paste it, dot, and specify the form control inside of it, contact type. So we can get the control over this control. Okay, so dot. So instead of first name, we can use contact type getter here for the error messages. I will use entire checking as it is. Okay, but here it is not required, right? I am not checking the required validation, my custom validation. So here my custom validation returning this object, right? So this object name, whatever name, if it is a test, that name I must copy. So revert it, copy this name and check errors for that name. Okay. So email or phone must be selected. So here small correction, it is -1. Okay. Now test again, select and deselect. See, automatically I'm getting error message. So my custom validation also successful. Okay. Now we will try to implement a validation for our dynamic forms and then we will close this video. Okay. So what I will do for this programming language dynamic forms, I want to enable the required field, required validation. If you want custom validation, you can apply custom validation by writing your own custom validator method. Okay, so here I want to apply for programming language, right? So here is the form group pushing, right? So here I can specify secondary for validations like validators dot required. That's it. And to display the error message, okay, to display the error message, I have to use same div tags. Let me copy this only because this is also required, right? Copy this div tag and go to programming language input field. Under it, paste it. Now we need to get the programming language control. But this is a dynamic form, right? We cannot get where which form field we are getting. So we cannot create a getter here. Instead of a getter, we can create a method here. So for that, let's create a method because here we cannot create the getter. It is a dynamic form created by the form control. Get programming lang, okay, and it will take the index value as input parameter, okay, and return this dot job forms dot get. Sorry, my languages is under skills, right? I have already created getter for skills. I can use that skill getter, skill form getter. So this dot skill forms getter, this getter, and for at which field form group I want to get the error message. So that can get using the at. Okay. Dot get the name of the form control. What is my name of the form control programming language? Okay. So I'm getting the particular form. So that particular form only will show the error message. Okay. So here what I can do, copy this, paste it over and pass the index value. Okay. Okay. My changes are done. Let's test it. So click on submit. Now click one more add button and focus out. See, I'm getting validation error because field is touched, right? Like that, you can add a number of dynamic themes, dynamic forms, and we can erase. We can raise validations as well. Okay. So that's all about the Angular 14 reactive forms. I hope this video has delivered some useful information to you all. If you like my video, please do support me by subscribing to my channel Soon we are going to meet with new videos. Until then, signing off.